Yes, now you can start.
All right, so very, very good evening, everyone. So today, Rasta and I would be presenting on our findings on Sharda Cropchem. Over the past week, we have delved deeper into this topic. The document as well to go through. Yeah, I'll hand over to the newest member among us for to start off the discussion. Yeah,
Thank you, Mayank. So first we will look at the company, like how they have started their operation and everything. So they are mainly into the agricultural products, and they have started its operation as a sole proprietorship in 1987, and it was owned by the Sharda V. Bhuvna ji with the name of MS Bhuvna International, and they were mainly dealing in the non-agrochemical products. Then in 1993, they wanted to expand their area of operation and entered into the agricultural product. Okay, and Bhuvna Ram Prakash V. Bhuvna ji have been there, and इनका business किसके नाम से था? Just wait a minute. It was with the name of MS Bhuvna Enterprises, and they were mainly dealing with the agrochemical product. So initially, in these days, they were growing inorganically by taking the registrations in the name of third party. Then something have changed in 2004. Firstly, they have changed their proprietorship to the private limited with a company named Sharda Worldwide Export Private Limited. And from there, they wanted to get the registrations in their own name, but they were facing the difficulty in the countries where they were operating. The main problem was that they were not getting the registrations because their area of operation and the area of origin both were different. So that's why they came up with the solution of creating the subsidiaries. And we have seen in the span of 2004 to 2013 कि उनका subsidiaries have been pumped up. And the main reason was that only क्योंकि उनको registration चाहिए था. ठीक है. तो next is in 2008 they some private equity investor which named HEP Mauritius Private Limited. इन्होंने they have nearly spent 1 billion rupees just to take the 15% stake in the company, and they were just providing the expertise to them. After that, इसका मैंने अलग टाइमलाइन बनाया है just because they were creating the subsidiaries, but for the first time in 2011 they have acquired some other company, that is Access Crop Service Private Limited, from the third person, and his name was Anil Kumar. And in 2011 they had taken 76% stake, and in 2014 जब वो list हो गए थे they had taken rest of the stake as well. सो आई एम लाइक क्वाइट स्केप्टिकल क्योंकि उनका एरिया ऑफ ऑपरेशन इंडिया में इतना कुछ ज्यादा है भी नहीं, पहली चीज। और दूसरी चीज उनका ऑलरेडी स्टैब्लिशमेंट इंडिया में ही है, तो व्हाई दे हैव टेकन दिस, आई एम लिटरली नो आइडिया, आई लिटरली डोंट हैव आइडिया। या then in 2014 they have listed into the BSE and NSE, and they had given in their prospectus the two main objective for that. First, they really wanted to establish their brand image. Second, they want to give the लिक्विडिटी टू देयर एग्जिस्टिंग शेयर होल्डर, और यहीं से HEP मॉरिशस ने एग्जिट मार दिया था. एंड वन मोर थिंग दैट दे हैव नॉट इन्वेस्टेड, दे हैव नॉट प्लान टू इन्वेस्ट इवन अ सिंगल पेनी इनटू द कंपनी, मतलब इट वाज सोली डन ऑफर फॉर सेल. ओके, so the next slide is where does the Sharda Cropchem line. So basically they are into the marketing and distribution channel and mainly deals with the formulations and generic active ingredients. और क्योंकि in the channel they are working in, and they are mainly done with by the smaller players in the smaller area. So we are not having a perfect competitors of them, but yeah, at Indian context we have UPL, who is the indirect competitor, and at international level we have Bayer, Syngenta, FMC, New Farm. Why they are indirect competitors? Because beside into the marketing and distribution channel, they are into some other areas of operation as well. Okay, so next we have supply and value chain dynamics. So they mainly, what are their main area of business? I am going to just explain that. So firstly, they are into the identifying of the molecules which are going to be off patent. Okay, and they are mainly doing the identification of those molecules which have really very high value. ठीक है, then they are just preparing the dossiers of it, that is the documents, and just trying to maintain that and to get the registrations in the various countries. After that they are formulating and packaging them in their own name, and then they are into the marketing and distribution of those products. And literally speaking, you marketing pay they are not spending much, but their distribution network is really very high. मतलब 500 plus distributors they have, and 400 plus distribute like 400 plus they are having their own sales force. Okay, now next is their supply, from where they are supplying and from where they are distributing their products. So mainly their raw materials are coming from the China, and one good part is that ki they are acquiring them in the USD. Okay, matlab inka 98% share is coming from the China, although it is in a commodity market. Inke they are having so many suppliers over there. Okay, so yeah. And if we talk about their client base, inka most of the revenues come from the EU, and then from NAFTA, and rest of the world and Latin America consist of not much revenue. They don't provide much revenue to them. If we talk about the EU, they are getting the transactions in euros, and in while in NAFTA and Latin America, if we talk about यहाँ पे इनका USD में होता है जो भी होता है transaction, ठीक है. अब क्योंकि they are having worldwide presence, they are only still having 5 to 10% of the market share, and the main reason for that is कि most of the market share, that is 75% of the market, is dominated by their MNCs or either by the innovators company. अब क्योंकि इनका डोमिनेंस इतना ज्यादा है, तो फिर ये जितने भी प्रोडक्ट्स बेचते हैं वो 5 से 10% कम पे ही बेचते हैं, ताकि ये सस्टेन कर सके मार्केट में. ओके, एंड इनका जो मेन प्रोडक्ट है, दे आर इनटू द फॉर्मुलेशंस एंड एआई, दैट इज जेनेरिक आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, सॉरी, इंग्रेडिएंट्स, एक्टिव इंग्रेडिएंट्स. तो फॉर्मुलेशंस में उनका 97% स्टेक है, मतलब 97% ऑफ द रेवेन्यू कम्स फ्रॉम द फॉर्मुलेशंस एंड रेस्ट विद द generics one. Let's talk about their shareholding pattern. So most of the share, if we see कि most of the stake इनके promoters के ही पास है, nearly 75% of the stake is with the promoters only. Okay, so they are driven company. इवन कि सेबी ने भी एलिजिबिलिटी क्राइटेरिया लगाया कि मैक्सिमम प्रोमोटर्स कैन हैव 75% ऑफ द स्टेक. If they will increase their eligibility criteria, so I think they too will increase their stake. Okay. And if we talk about the domestic institutional investors, they have 13% of the stake, while foreign institutional investors have 2%, and rest of the stake is with the public. If we do the promoter holding breakup, Ram Prakash ji, Sharda ji, Ashish ji, and Manish ji, who all are related to each other, have the significant stake of nearly, each is nearly having 15 to 16% of them. Then in DII, if we talk about HDFC small cap fund, have nearly 9% of stake in the company. Let's have the discussion on promoter and the board. So the first is Mr. Ram Prakash V. Bhumna, and he is the chairman and MD of the company, and he still holds a significant position in the company. We also consider him as a brainchild of the business, because he was there into the business since the establishment. Okay, and he have graduated in from IIT Bombay from in chemical engineering, and he have nearly a 54 years of rich experience in chemicals, agrochemicals, and related business, and he have responsible for company's overall business operation and strategy. Then we have Mrs. Sharda Arbubna, and she is the whole-time director of the company, and she is also the wife of Mr. Rakesh V. Bubna. And she was also accompanied her husband during the uh, whole life cycle of the company, and she have completed her bachelor's degree in arts from Nagpur University. Then we have Mr. Ashish R. Bhuvna, who is the whole-time director and the son of Ram Prakash ji, and he had done his graduation in commerce, and he have a 31 years of experience in marketing of chemicals, agrochemicals, and related business. Then we have Mr. Manish R. Bhuvna, the whole-time director of the company and also the son of Ram Prakash ji. He have completed his chemical engineering, and he have 29 years of experience in chemicals, agrochemicals, and related business. Then we have Mr. M.S. Sundara Rajan, an independent director. He have post-graduated in economics, and he is also the CS of India, and have 38 years of experience in banking industry and served as a CMD of Indian Bank. Then we have Mr. Shitin Desai, an independent director. He is a veteran with 41 years of experience in banking and financial services sector. Then we have Mr. Shobhan Thakare, an independent director who have graduated in arts and laws. He was the solicitor at the Bombay High Court and Supreme Court of England and Wales. Then we have Mr. Sonal Desai. She is also the independent director, and she is the chartered accountant and have a unique experience and expertise in the business areas such as marketing, operations, projects, and refineries management. So from now, Mayank will proceed.
All right. Thank you, Asta. Could you also please turn on the laser pointer?
Oh, just wait a minute.
Yeah,
Done.
thank you. All right. So Asta has laid foundation of the very discussion of the company. Now we'll delve deep into their business strategy. In very simple terms, the elevator pitch, if I were to make for this company, it is a simply a trader in the business. We have seen they call themselves asset light. They do not have any manufacturing plant in general, and we'll deep dive into what their financial metrics look like as well. So yeah, next, please. Next. Yeah. So bread and butter of the business. So these are the very first disclosures which are done in the annual report and the con calls, and majority of the discussion revolves around what is happening in these two metrics. So registration, as Asta had explained, the very core business of Sharda is that they register off-patent generics. They procure from China and they sell it in a regulated market. So if you see 9 months FY23, they have close to 2,700 registrations under their name. So we have seen in AI in specialty chemical companies, majority of the revenue is driven by top 5, top 10 chemicals. But unlike Sharda, Sharda doesn't have any such concentration risk. It has a very well diversified portfolio in terms of registration, and it has been in an increasing trend. They have been investing very heavily in capex, or this is the main asset. This is the main end result of those investments. Yeah, registrations have been in the uptrend, a good sign. And the next thing is pipeline. So pipeline basically means the registration which haven't come to flotation, which haven't reached the end goal, and they are in the process of registration. Because we'll discuss our document body, the very core competence, the very moat of this business is that they are very proficient in registering their chemicals in this registration process, because it is done in regulated markets. काफी difficult due diligence process है. So it is a barrier to entry for players. But Sharda has been a legacy player in that aspect. और अगर आप उनकी pipeline देखिए, for 9 months FY23, it has been close to 1,100. So these are the registrations which over time in the future will convert to registration, full-fledged registration, and will pay the deadlines. So in general, a strong pipeline, it has been in the slight uptrend, stable raha. It is a good sign. So if in the upcoming trends, if let's say pipeline decreases, now that is a very negative news that Sharda hasn't been able to capitalize on its investment. It hasn't been able to generate registration. But abhi, everything sounds good on paper. Registrations are in uptrend. They have a very strong pipeline, which will play dividends or play out in the future. Yeah, very good on paper. Right. Next slide, please. All right. So I was listening to several con calls of Ram Prakash ji. So in marketing we study product life cycle. So उसकी similar terminology में I created a registration life cycle. So we'll see this registration जो उनका main asset है, उनका intangible asset है. How does it play out in these regulated markets? Yeah, the very first is new to market. So yeah, the x-axis time would be on a longer duration. These are very long term things, years tenure होता है, 3 years, 5 years, काफी लंबा tenure होता है. On the y-axis, sales of how much value does it hold at what time for Sharda. Yeah. So first is new to market. So this is the very we have discussed this. They are in the business of registering of patent generics. तो आप उनकी पहला couple of pages in the annual report you read, they'll mention that they maintain very good dossiers. Unka database they follow this very well. What are the chemicals which are going off patent, and they are the one of the first companies to actually pounce upon it and get the registration process started. Wahi unka that is their competitive advantage. So this is when Sharda's generic product hit the shelf, and the very next thing. Yeah, early adoption. So if let's say someone needs 100 liters of XYZ chemical, so he'll actually example it in the farmer community in general. Sharda's generic would come into play. People will adopt. Why? Because they're cost cutting the MNCs by 10 to 15%. As we are aware, Sharda doesn't have any brand name, but वो cost cutting करके they can effectively have some sort of position. They can in the minority 25% market share. They can have some sort of existence or addressable market इतना बड़ा, they can very easily play that out. So early adoption, this would be somewhere where उनका generic product would be adopted by farmers. थोड़ा name बन रहा होगा. It would be a recognized थोड़ा brand on the shelf. Next please. Yeah. So among generics, Sharda registration at this point would have been thoda an established product. So let's say if you need a XYZ formulation, XYZ chemical, you must be aware कि हाँ Sharda का it would be a market it would be open कि Sharda's chemical is good. It's good in price, it's good in quality. So this is somewhere it receives the max dividend of its registration. Yeah, next please. And lastly, as all good things come to end, Ram Prakash ji कहते हैं उनका registration after some time becomes a commodity. Commodity का in general he means again commoditized. So X generics होंगे, generics might be price cutting Sharda. वो the very utility of the chemical might have come down. So it becomes a commodity, or it is not as valuable for Sharda as it was before. Yeah, next please. But as we mentioned, the pipeline is strong. They have 1,100 chemicals under in process. So this cycle will repeat again and again for chemicals. Or this is the ideal scenario. What Sharda expects for the chemical registration to do. We'll see in the financial metrics as well. X things can happen. A chemical could be banned. They have to write off their investment. X things can happen. But in the ideal scenario, this is what the registration goes through in a regulated market. Next slide, please. All right. Now we'll see that Sharda's revenue comes from two sources, which is agro and non-agro. Agro acting company, it is operational and herbicides, fungicides, or insecticides. These are the main agro products, which account for the majority of their revenue, close to 80-85% of their revenue. Non-agro part is also significant. It is close to 15, recently close to 20%. This is an aspect which in general the markets aren't very happy about or very optimistic about. Non-agro ka matlab hai, they, as we mentioned, when they started off, they were not in the business of agchem. They started off with dyes and intermediate. It's conveyor belts, generic chemicals. These are all parts which comprise of non-agro. Sharda in general isn't very vocal or open about this aspect, but this is a significant part जो कि revenue को count करता है. But again, our general discussion will revolve around the agro chem business. Yeah. Next, please. This slide taken from Sharda's Sharda's PPT. This gives a holistic view of what they are trying to do in general. So reading this would give you a very good idea of what they do. This in general is outlook of what I have already majority of the points I have discussed. Yeah, next please. Yeah. Alright, yeah. So we'll deep dive into the agrochem business, which accounts for the majority of their revenue, is the driving force ahead. So if we look at 9 months FY22 data of how their agrochem business is split, so close to 50% came from herbicides, 26% came from insecticides, and 24% from fungicides. Just after 1 year, if we just look at insecticides share, from 26% it came down to 16%. So close to 40% decrease. This was a point of discussion in the latest con call. How come a 40% decrease could happen in a share? Because all the other grew not in a relatively pace, not very substantially. So this was the answer of Dr. Kashi. They mentioned that they do not monitor these metrics, these revenue share, their margins. This is not the game they want to play. They don't want to micromanage their registration or these graph charts. They have a very simple business model. They listen to their they play macro trends. They see the demand in general. They talk to their people on ground. They talk to their clientele. They get a holistic view of what would be the outlook, and they manage according to that. So reading into this chart wouldn't be of much flotation. Sharda is very agile in the way it operates and very dynamic in what it does. Yeah, next please. Yeah, as we had mentioned, Sharda is bucketed under global marketing. It is a completely export-based business. तो आप इंडिया का शेयर देखिए, it is negligible. It always has been negligible, and it is completely almost non-operational in India. But the next chart, which is EU, the one in yellow. So if you see, it is the most significant part of Sharda's business. Has always accounted for 40, 45, 50% of their business. Recently has faced some tensions, which I'll elaborate on. Now, EU is of very much importance of Sharda because the best gross margins are from this region. I'll share the latest figures, which are EU may they see 35.7% gross margins, which is the highest among all the geographies. So this is a very important demographic for Sharda, and it will continue to be. And they are expanding into new territories as well. Yeah, next is LATAM. LATAM stands for Latin America. So FY 15-16, it was significant, and over time it has come down, it has shrunk. One reason for this is we mentioned कि registration के process में they have to deal with regulation in general. So Latin America में they had eased the registration process. और जैसा हम लोगों ने mention करा था, the very core competency of a competitive advantage is कि they are able to register or they have that expertise. But if the very barriers of entry ही कम हो जाएंगे, other players will come into the market, other generic company will come and register a product, and it can be evident from the chart as well. So वहाँ पे they have reduced their focus and they have moved on to better alternate geography. LATAM in general isn't good in terms of gross revenue as well. Latest figures accordingly, it is just account for 15% gross revenue. So not a very profitable or lucrative market. And yeah, after the one in dark blue, this is something which Sharda is paying more attention to. FY 15 it had 20% revenue share, and now it has doubled, close to 40. And we are seeing euro. I'll discuss the forex aspect as well. And this is something which Sharda is eyeing on. काफी बड़ा addressable market, as I mentioned, and this could be a good growth figure. Margins in America as well, NAFTA region as well, are also pretty good. They are at 30%, very in line with Europe as well. Yeah, this was the geographic mix in which they cater to for Sharda. Yeah, next please. Great. Moving on to forensics. So we have taken the other framework, which was for the non-financial company, which had 29 parameters. So Sharda did very well. It scored 80%, 23 out of 29 on forensics. I'll discuss the one in which it lost marks or lost. Yeah. So the first is auditor remuneration. Yeah. So we have taken peers as Aztec and Bharat Rasayan because they are comparable in terms of size. Sharda's business model you'll find very tough to replicate, or a company which is so peculiar business model. But Aztec or Bharat Rasayan are similar size, so they'll do a good proxy for these peers. So Sharda has a considerably large remuneration of 80 lakhs, which is more than its peers. Explanation could be the other factors of auditors were in line. They have employed a very good auditor, KPMG ka India now, and the remuneration also hasn't grown. So I believe this isn't a big red flag in general, but as a precautionary measure, we have marked it as 0. Yeah. So next is EBITDA to CFO. Yeah. So at the end of the day, a business is capital in, capital out of how effectively they are able to convert their EBITDA into CFO. To form a better opinion, we have a chart on this and peer comparison as well. We'll see how it peers fare out to form a better opinion. But sticking with parameters, sticking with the scoring criteria, we have marked it as 0. Yeah. And last, next to paying rent to promoters and company buy sells from its key personals. So Nirvana sir has taught us the legacy business in general. This shouldn't be a red flag because the very ground up they have built the business, so they would have the related party transactions, and this is the case for Sharda as well. We have seen in the formation Ram Prakash ji ki journey in general. So they do pay rent to their promoters, and the next one could be a CSR activity. So nothing of a massive red flag, but as a precautionary measure, again, we have marked it as zero because it is in violation with the parameters. Uh, and yeah, lastly, these two. So these two have been a very interesting point for M6. We got the motivation to actually do a deeper dive in value picker as well. These two are some sort of something which people aren't so sure about and need to form a better opinion. Yeah, first is depreciation rate. So you want I'll elaborate on the amortization policy later. But for a company in general, you want the standard deviation come how it should be very stable. This is not the case for Sharda. On the standard deviation has been highest 7.61 for the last 9 years. This is an area of concern. I'll elaborate this more on this. And lastly, net fixed asset as a part of and the percentage of intangible. So yeah, Austin and I discussed कि उनका main asset, the whole capex सारी investment जाती है in the creation of registration, which is their asset at the end of it. On it is of an intangible basis. So the very value, this comprises majority of their book for the net fixed asset, which is 80, close to 90%. Other is working capital. I'll elaborate on these 2 points, but yeah, last 2 points are area of concern, which we'll discuss on. Yeah, overall very clean for them. Yeah, discussing financial metrics. All right. Revenue and PAT, discussing the top line. It has grown considerably well, 20% CAGR for the last 10 years. So this is a very good news because listening to Mr. Hirsch's video, he mentioned two things. One was that companies operating in the Indian region find it very tough to scale after a certain point. That is not the case of Sharda. They are operating in advanced economies. वहाँ पे demand and everything is much higher. काफी addressable market, and they should have uh, uh, no no reasons to not scale. Over time, okay, management की outlook है, they will grow on 15-20% sustainably, and they are nowhere near saturation in these markets. And the second point is PAT. So if we see PAT in general is susceptible to massive risk and massive factors. Forex depreciation policy है, इनके write-offs. I'll elaborate on that. But silver lining ये है that they again, Mr. Hirsch's pointed about how Sharda is one of the few companies which has been able to deliver at least a stable, at least a good bottom line. Because in general, the companies in this sector find it very difficult. Cyclic business, they find it very difficult to maintain such a bottom line. But Sharda has been one of the outliers in this aspect and has delivered positive part over the years. Yeah, next slide. Next please. Yeah. So as I mentioned, so उनकी fixed asset का majority of 90% lies in intangibles जो उनके registrations हैं. The other part of balance sheet is working capital. काफी working capital heavy business है. So we'll look at CCC, the line in blue. So cash conversion cycle in simple terms means कि आपकी inventory कितने time में flip हो रही है and you are able to get the cash for it. So the general notion associated with Sharda is that this is a very efficient company in terms of managing working capital, which is a very big requirement for chemical industry in general, because the majority part of operations is managing supply chain and managing these aspects. So I believe the general notion stands still FY18 that they were very efficient. Seeing the blue line, they were very efficient, but recent years I think we would beg to differ that the trend is changing. So blue line has been rising up, means they aren't as efficient as they used to, and they're facing different pressures. So seeing the components of this, so inventory days के जो बात करें, till FY 17-18, it had been a very efficient turn in inventory turnover ratio भी काफी अच्छा था. But recently it has inventory days have increased substantially. There are various reasons actually. So in FY18, China's policy had changed in terms of environmental related to environmental changes in respect to chemical industry. So Sharda did a very natural thing. They'll stock up. They decide to stock up the inventory. FY20 maybe same time, there was risk of China closing and all these things. So very logical thing was Sharda for them to do was to stock up inventory. Abhi they are sitting on significant inventory in general. So this is the area of concern. Let's see how they are able to turn this over, or convert their inventory. But in general, abhi working capital days or inventory days are increasing and trends are changing. We'll see over the future if this eases down according to our outlook, which is positive. These aspects should ease down. Talking about creditors and debtors, in जनरल एमएनसीज का बहुत अच्छा लीनियंट या लिबरल आउटलुक रहता है अपने सप्लायर्स और अपने सप्लायर्स और डेटर्स इन जनरल उनके साथ. Sharda has to comply with the demands with what the MNCs are offering. So this is not something which it has much power on. Inventory days or cash conversion cycle, inventory days is the major part which it has some control on. Debtor and inventory days trading into that wouldn't be of much rotation because they are operational in such different countries. Latent का कुछ अलग रहता है. They have different outlooks. So yeah, in general, trend of being efficient with working capital is changing. We'll see if this eases down. That would be a positive sign. Yeah, next please. All right. As we discussed, global marketing है, कोई massive value addition नहीं करती है Sharda. So the PAT margins of close to 10 to 15% is in line with their business strategy. This I mentioned कि bottom line is open to very different risks. May it be forex, may it be cyclic reasons, may it be different reasons. So this PAT is in line with their business model of what they're trying to do. Again, this is very variable, would depend on different factors. In our outlook, as we are seeing China easing down, they're increasing their capacity. This should improve in the near future. EBITDA margins, gross margins are close to 30%, EBITDA margins close to 20%. These are very good numbers. Next, please. Yeah, so EBITDA margin and ROE, ROC, these are very good numbers in general. I have couple of slides because taking these numbers at their face value, I believe would be a big mistake. Doing a deeper dive understanding, because ROC, ROE are again you're using PAT, you're using EBIT. Both are susceptible to depreciation, different factors which are very unique in case of Sharda, which we'll elaborate on. But in general, if we see the snapshot, this is of a company which is operating very well, is a very profitable business. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, next. Yeah. So in general, we presented that Sharda is a very good company, but these are the two factors which were part of forensic task, which need further attention. Yeah, the first chart is write-offs as a percent of EBITDA. As I mentioned in the registration life cycle, we see what the ideal scenario happens. But as I mentioned a couple of times, registration could be written off. They could the very investment that doesn't come to fruition. Chemicals are banned. So effectively, Sharda has to write off these investments, these registrations. This can also happen in inventory as well. As I mentioned, they're sitting on massive inventory. If that also doesn't sell, that also doesn't end up converting, they also have to write off that aspect as well. So write-offs are a very significant part of their EBITDA. So if we see for FY18, FY19 and 20, they were very in 2 digits. Write-offs P&L का part होते हैं. If you see in their other expenses in general, this would be mentioned. So this is a way in which P&L or the bottom line could be manipulated, ratios could be manipulated. You have to take the management word on these two factors, because आप इसमें ज़्यादा अपना due diligence नहीं कह सकते. Whatever they are saying, you have to believe that they have good intentions behind it, and there's nothing larger at play. The next chart is of depreciation amortization rate. In the forensics, we had given it as 0 because standard deviation काफी high था, and it is evident from the chart as well. For FY17, they are at 43%, FY18, 33%. Massive jumps in amortization rate. So, if we look at the annual report, उनकी amortization policy, so for the registration, जो कि उनका core asset, core intangible main asset है, they have a useful life of 5 years and they amortize it by a straight line method. तो ideally 5 years के बाद वो it should be off the books, it should be salvaged. But ऐसा होता नहीं. We've seen, I've discussed in the registration life cycle, ऐसा हो सकता है the chemical, the registration is renewed, it plays out for a longer time, something would be written off. Mass of things are at play which affect these two rates. But again, this is not in line because I'm reading Philip Prasad's new book. उन्होंने mentioned that the balance sheet is the most important according to him. I can't say the same for Sharda. उनका net fixed asset is intangible. उसकी real worth uh, 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 nikalna is very tough. You have to take the management word at the end of the day. Or these two are areas of concern which should be monitored. Thodi stability in these two factors would instill people, investors with a lot of confidence. But yeah, this would be part of our antithesis as well. Yeah, next week. Yeah, next. Yeah, next. Yeah. So Forex and Sharda. So अगर आप उनकी latest दो तीन con calls पढ़ेंगे तो majority of the discussion is Forex management related. So उन्होंने अपने P&L में also they've added a new header, Forex effect. So with Forex effect and without Forex effect, what actually the P&L is, what actually their margins are. As we mentioned, export-based business. You expect from Sharda that Forex management would be something which they would be very proficient in, very good in. But that hasn't been the case for Sharda. काफी सारा Forex management is done on a human basis, is done on a very not on a very quantitative, not on a very fixed basis. They do as they think or their outlook is. So Euro versus USD chart, as we mentioned, Euro is a very significant market, 40%, 45%, and it is the best lucrative in terms of margins as well. So बहुत important है for Sharda, and it has been the driving force of their business since long. So in changes of Euro USD, they would be directly impacted. Because Asta had mentioned they procure from USD from China, they pay in USD, और उनको जब receivables आते हैं, it comes in Euro from Europe. So if the Euro USD chart, if this depreciates at the end of the day, उनके receivables कम हो जाते हैं. So what they receive is less, which is not the favorable situation. So we have this is again the inspiration is from Valley Paper. So in 2000, this Euro depreciated against USD heavily. At this time, Sharda wasn't as effectively operational, as actively operational. So this wasn't a massive concern from him. The next time this massive dip happened was close to in 2015. Yeah. So अगर आप उनके EBIT और PAT margins देखें, they were adversely hit. They were hit via this depreciation. Silver lining इसमें ये है कि Sharda now actually does short-term contract. They do 3-month contract. They are into derivative markets, but in general कोई forex management या फिर कोई risk assessment team नहीं है. When asked in the con call, the analyst didn't receive any satisfactory answer. So I'll repeat again. It is done on a human basis. It is done of what management sees. And yeah, next please. And yeah, of course, recently, of course, Euro has depreciated against USD heavily, and Sharda was adversely hit. In the recent, it is appreciating. Now, as I mentioned, they are into smaller contracts, 3 months contract. They are in derivatives, forward contract maybe. Now they're effectively seeing to capture this upside as well. अगर आप देखिए, Euro appreciate हो रहा है, so in turn they receive more from their Euro pockets. So they want to capture the upside. So they are in more, and they also believe the outlook in this manner is positive. So in the upcoming future, again, in our outlook, we think it will be a positive factor actually. Them capturing the upside, them getting better receivables is favorable in the near future. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I'll hand over to Aspa to discuss the peer comparison. Yeah.
Okay, so as we already know, the company is having a very peculiar area of operation, and generally smaller players are there to operate. So that's why we have chosen the peers on the basis of the market capitalization, and further the peers who are into the marketing and distribution channel along with some other functions. Okay, so the first peer we have chosen as Aztec Life Sciences Limited, and they are manufacturing the active ingredients, and they have the market capitalization of 2600 crore rupees. And let me tell you, the Sharda Cropchem have a market capitalization of nearly 4200 crore rupees. Then the next peer is Bharat Rasayan, and here they are into the manufacturing of technical grade pesticides, and they have a market capitalization of nearly 4100 crore. Then we have UPL, and they have the market capitalization of 53,000 crore rupees. I know it's quite high, but they are the one who is into the marketing as well as in some manufacturing units. Okay, and have some international reach. So our first metrics is net fixed asset turnover. So which specifically tells ki how much of your sales is being utilized due to the net fixed asset. Net fixed asset is something which is excluded of your depreciation. And if we compare the Sharda's performance with its peers, we will get to know it's quite good. Okay. Then our next. Huh. Our next metrics is PAT and EBITDA margin, and it's really quite not better, but it's really low if we are comparing with its peers. And the main reason for this is कि पहली चीज तो ये कि they are into the trading business. They are purchasing the finished goods and supplying the goods as it is. Okay, first thing. And second thing, ये इनका सबसे ज़्यादा as Mayank have already discussed कि सबसे ज़्यादा impact इनका डेप्रिसिएशन रेट से होता है और ऑपरेटिंग एक्सपेंसेस भी स्पेशली प्रोफेशनल एंड लीगल फीस इज द वन हु कंट्रीब्यूट नियरली 50% ऑफ द अदर एक्सपेंसेस उसकी वजह से इनका पैट मार्जिन काफी लो है ठीक है आफ्टर दैट इन आफ्टर some time I will do the two point analysis just to compare its performance with its peers. Okay, then we have ROE and ROCE. So basically, I will much more focus on ROE because ROCE के लिए one must have a debt. And if we talk about the Sharda Cropchem Limited, they have negligible amount of debt. Okay. So इनका ROE is nearly 18.30 percentage, which is really good if we compare with the UPL, but lower than the Aztec and the Bharat Rasayan. Okay, and let me just tell you कि इनका WACC is really 11 to 12%, and obviously every year their net growth is positive. Okay, as I have made the do pond at the end moment, so I was not able to upload it or linked it with the PPT. So I just want to get back and to open the Excel. Can I?
Yeah, please.
Okay, thank you, sir. Okay, okay. So this is the do point, and this is the ROE of the Sharda, UPL, and STAC. In which I have already discussed. So I have bifurcated the ROE into three ratios. First is PAT margin, which tells you ki how much percentage of your revenue is done by net income, like how much of your net income. एक minute, how much of your revenue is your net income? Second is efficiency ratio, which tells you how much of your total assets is being converted into your sales. Then third is leverage ratio, which tells you your total assets divided by your equity. Okay. And if we compare it with the peer, we will get to know कि इनका efficiency ratio is really good और 196% इनका leverage है जो कि एवरेज से देखा जाए तो कम है बट वी हैव अ गुड पॉइंट कि इनके पास डेट काफी नेग्लिजिबल अमाउंट में है तो 196% इज ओके और 96% एवरेज में देखा जाए एफिशिएंसी रेशियो इज रियली क्वाइट गुड तो दे हैव टू वर्क ऑन द पैट मार्जिन जस्ट टू शूट अप देयर ROE. Okay, so that was the analysis I had done. Let me come to the okay. So the next ratio is CFO by EBITDA, which Mayank have already discussed in the forensic analysis. Ki they have nearly 0. Let me just tell you कि CFO by EBITDA say what we are going to find out. It's basically how much of your EBITDA is converted into cash. Okay. And from 1 rupees, they are only able to convert 38 paise. So obviously it is very low, but if we compare it with the peers, it's quite good. Okay, so that was the peer comparison. Now let's have the discussion on the future outlook and the antithesis. Okay. Hmm. The first is relieving forex burden. So we have already seen in their quarterly results कि इनका 9 months का data इतना ज़्यादा अच्छा नहीं था. इनका gross margin was not too good because of the weakening of euro against the USD. But now, as already Mayank have discussed, कि euros is strengthening against the USD. Although it have not reached to the normal level, but the company have taken some measures for that to mitigate the risk. Firstly, they have just tried to divert their sales to the NAFTA region. Why so? Because क्योंकि they are dealing there in the USD only. सेकेंड इन्होंने क्या किया है कि इन्होंने प्रोक्योर किया है गुड्स यूरोज में ही. मतलब दे हैव नॉट convince the suppliers of China कि तुम euros में खरीदो, but they have procured the goods in Europe only and transmitted there only. ठीक है. After that they have entered into the forward contracts, but the forward contracts are of smaller duration. So that's how they have tried to mitigate the risk of euros against the USD. Then we have the strong pipeline of registration. They have nearly 1131 registrations in the pipeline, and which is really a very good sign because they are into the their main area of operation is this only कि registrations लेना है, उसके basis पे उनका sales होगा. ठीक है. And we have seen कि उनका registration यूरोप region में ही सबसे ज़्यादा हो रहा है पिछले सालों से, and उनका मार्जिन भी सबसे ज़्यादा यूरोप में ही होता है. As Mayank have already discussed कि for 35% of the margin is coming from the Europe only. Okay, and they are strengthening their base in Europe. And you won't believe कि registration लेना Europe में is quite difficult because of the regulations issue. And they are in the good books and able to convert their registration. तो इससे हो क्या रहा है कि they are strengthening up their moats. Okay, and gaining more advantage over their peers. Then we have global slowdown. So basically we know कि अभी recession वाला तो कोई season नहीं है, but still we are facing the slowdown, and we are very well versed. We are not sure कि when the Russia and Ukraine war will end up. अब उससे Sharda will have a benefit both side, मतलब from the purchase side as well as from supplying side. How we will discuss. See, वो they are just getting the goods procured from the China. अब क्योंकि चाइना की भी इकोनॉमी ओपन हो रही है, तो दे विल एबल टू गेट और प्रोक्योर द गुड्स एट अ लोअर कॉस्ट. ओके. आफ्टर दैट जहाँ जहाँ पे वो सप्लाई करती हैं वहाँ की एमएनसीज का जो सेलिंग प्राइस है वो इंक्रीज हो रहा है, क्योंकि उनका कॉस्ट इंक्रीज हो रहा है. उनका कॉस्ट कैसे इंक्रीज हो रहा है? क्योंकि एनर्जी प्राइसेस आर इंक्रीजिंग इन यूरोप बिकॉज ऑफ यूएस रशिया वॉर. ओके. और शॉर्टेजेस भी है ऑल ओवर द वर्ल्ड. तो अल्टीमेटली द सेलिंग प्राइस इज गेटिंग हायर, और दिस इज वेयर again Sharda Cropchem will have the benefit. So they are having the benefit from both sides, from the buying side and from the selling side as well. So they are projecting the growth of nearly 15 to 20% in the revenue. Then we have the agrochemical cyclic business. So we already know that they are into the agrochemical products. So they are their products is mainly dependent on the monsoon. If the monsoon will be good, if there will be a favorable monsoon, so obviously their revenues will bump up. Okay, and one more thing, that their quarter four is really very heavy. Why so? Because their major portion is coming from the Europe, और उनका winter season दिसंबर से लेके फेब में ही आता है, and that is the major portion of their crop growing season. Okay, so yeah, that was the future outlook. Let's have the discussion on the antithesis, some negative points on which you will think upon while listening to that. You will think whether to invest in the company or not. Okay, so first is China concentration risk. As we have already seen, ki 98% of their raw materials are coming from the China only. So what if the China will close, or what if the China will do something जिसकी वजह से शारदा will get impacted. See, in 2017 only, as Mayank have already discussed, कि they have introduced some environmental norms just to reduce their pollution. तो उसकी वजह से क्या हुआ था कि इनका एक ग्लाइफोस्फेट करके केमिकल था which was the major significant ingredient in herbicide. उसकी वजह से उनका impact हो गया था. अब उसकी वजह से फिर ये हुआ कि फिर उनके पास वो प्रोडक्ट आना कम हो गया, तो इनके सप्लाई कम हो गए थे, तो शारदा क्रॉप कैम में अल्टीमेटली काफी ज्यादा दिक्कत आया था इस पॉलिसी की वजह से। सेकेंड कि अभी कोरोना वायरस आया था, मतलब नहीं, नॉट कोरोना वायरस बट चाइना हैव इम्पोज so many restrictions so that their economy got closed in the last year only. अब उसकी वजह से भी इनके इनपुट कॉस्ट में काफी ज्यादा बढ़ोतरी हुई, इनके फिर their freight cost have also increased. Okay, so this is the main risk of not only of Sharda but the whole industry as well. Then we have seen कि उनके पास pricing power नहीं है, क्योंकि the one in which they are playing with, it is already dominated by the MNCs and some innovator companies. ठीक है, अब होता ये है कि if they want, they are having a monopoly in in the whole country and they have nothing to do with it. They have to work according to the MNCs and the innovator companies. Okay, ठीक है. Then is uncertain regulatory climate. So basically, if we if I am going to be, if I'm very specific, let me be very specific regarding the Europe. Okay, so Europe, in getting the registration in Europe is really very stringent. Matlab they have very stringent policies. Okay, and one more thing, ki most of the farmers are, as of now, most of the farmers are using the chemicals for the protection of the crops, but the government of Europe is more favoring to the bioinsecticide. और वी हैव ऑलरेडी सीन कि इनके पास सबसे ज्यादा रेवेन्यू या तो हर्बिसाइड से आते हैं, इंसेक्टिसाइड से आते हैं, फंजीसाइड से आते हैं. दे हैव नो, their revenue is no more coming from the biocides, although they have some supply in the biocides as well, but that is not of very significant position. Okay, and as of now the Europe have banned nearly 48 pesticides, the chemical pesticides, and they will keep on banning that and will favor the bioinsecticides. Okay, and they in the con calls as well, they have not made even a single statement regarding their plans for investing huge in the bioinsecticide. Okay, then we have poor forex management. As Mayank have already discussed this, ki whatever the contract they are doing, forward contract they are solely done by human basis. They are not having a proper forex management जो कि पूरा calculate करके बता सके कि कितने में forward contract लेना है या नहीं लेना है. First thing, and second thing, whenever the euros is getting weak, they are going into the contracts. Okay, और जब euros बढ़ने वाले होते हैं, they are not into that. मतलब they should have taken the proper management और proper, हाँ, yeah, exactly, proper management होना चाहिए इनका. And second is asset light business. They claim everywhere कि they are into the asset light model, but if we will see कि उनका capex कितना ज्यादा है, इनका capex nearly 200 crore के आसपास जाता है, and capex in the form of getting the registration. Okay, और वो भी अगर हम उसे रेवेन्यू से कंपेयर करें तो इट इज नियरली 11 to 12% ऑफ देयर रेवेन्यूज. ओके, अब ये है कि इनका फ्री कैश फ्लो भी इतना ज्यादा नहीं होता, तो हाउ दे आर कंसिडरिंग देमसेल्फ एज एन एसेट लाइट मॉडल. लाइक इवन इन द मैन्युफैक्चरिंग यूनिट्स द सेम proportion is aligned with them. Okay, so one of the analysts have asked from them ki why are you considering yourself as an asset light even though your your working is much parallel to the manufacturing units. And they simply said ki people are claiming that we are asset light model and we are simply accepting that and we are not having any kind of कुछ मतलब उसमें गलत नहीं लगता हमें, जो वो कहते हैं हम मान लेते हैं. So there is a leeway for financial shenanigans, as Mayank have discussed, read between the lines. So we are quite skeptical regarding all those things. So we should be cautious before investing into this company. Okay. Huh. So this is the valuation part. As I have mentioned various points outlook में, and most of the points उसी के basis पे मैंने कुछ percentage discuss किए हैं, जैसे कि रेवेन्यू फ्रॉम ऑपरेशन का ग्रोथ मैंने एज्यूम किया है एज टू बी 17% इन अ नॉर्मल केस. लेट मी जस्ट ओपन दिस एक्सेल फाइल. विल दैट गेट रिस्पॉन्स? Okay, so this is my this is my assumption sheet जहाँ पे I have just discussed the normal scenario, best scenario, worst scenario of the revenue from operation. तो वैसे तो मैनेजमेंट ने 15 to 20% का assume किया था, and I totally agree with them क्योंकि इनका revenue is mainly defined by two factors, that is the volume and second is the price and the product mix. And अगर हम price और product mix के बारे में देखें तो I have already discussed in the outlook कि उनके पास दोनों साइड से ही फेवर है. तो आई थिंक कि उनका प्राइस और प्रोडक्ट मिक्स भी ग्रोथ करेगा और उनका वॉल्यूम तो ऑब्वियसली करेगा ही क्योंकि उनका रजिस्ट्रेशन इंक्रीज होता जा रहा है. तो एट नॉर्मल सिनेरियो आई हैव टेकन 17% एज अ ग्रोथ. ओके, बट एट लोअर साइड आई हैव टेकन at 15%, while at best side it can be 20% as well. Okay, after that, gross profit margin also I have assumed, which is 31% in normal case, और बेस्ट केस में 35% भी जा सकता है और वर्स्ट केस में 28 भी जा सकता है. एंड ग्रॉस मार्जिन लेने का ये जो जितना भी रेंज मैंने लिया है, इसका मेन रीजन ही यही है कि उनके इनपुट कॉस्ट में थोड़ा सा इम्पैक्ट होगा, थोड़ा कम होगा क्योंकि यूरो इज गेटिंग स्ट्रेंथन अगेंस्ट द यूएस डॉलर्स. ओके, आफ्टर दैट जितने भी इसमें एजम्पशन लेने थे, लाइक employees expense or other expense or whatever depreciation and amortization expense, I have taken the average of last 3 years. Okay, then we have finally come to the PAT, which is 350, 325.8 or 4.8 or something, 400, 408.6 or 495.4, which is 8%, 8% and 9% of the revenues. Okay, after that ये इनके शेयर प्राइस थे इन, मतलब जो भी इनका, मतलब 22 जून के लिए मैंने शायद जून के एट द एंड ऑफ द जून आई हैव टेकन द शेयर प्राइजेस. और इसके बाद यहाँ पे मैंने बेस शेयर प्राइस 473 लिया था, जो कि आज का है. तो इसके अकॉर्डिंग ईपीएस अगर देखा जाए तो पहली चीज तो आउटस्टैंडिंग शेयर हमारे पास 9.2 है, एंड आई एम अज्यूमिंग कि फ्यूचर में भी इतने ही रहेंगे. तो अर्निंग पर शेयर इतने इतने रुपए से बढ़ जाएगा 36, 45 और 54 से. और फिर शेयर प्राइस मैंने मल्टीप्लाई किया है पी मल्टीपल से. तो पी मल्टीपल मैंने क्या लिया है, 473 मैंने एज अ बेस लिया है. ठीक है, और पीई जो है, ओके, तो पी मल्टीपल 13.1, 10.4 और 8.6 आ रहा था और शेयर प्राइस मैंने मल्टीप्लाई कर दिया था. तो बेसिकली मैंने एज्यूम किया है पीई को भी यहाँ पे. तो मीडियन ऑफ 1 ईयर लिया है, मीडियन ऑफ 3 ईयर और मीडियन ऑफ 5 ईयर लिया है. तो वैसे मैंने अगर मीडियन ऑफ 3 ईयर ले तो इट्स 13.1 और अल्टीमेटली इसका अपसाइड 52% जाएगा आफ्टर 3 years, आई थिंक सो. So that's all from my side. Thank you so much.
Oh, brilliant presentation. Please keep that screen on.
The valuation one.
And presentation रख दीजिए,
Okay.
so that we can maybe discuss on it. But overall, I mean, this was a very detailed and very good presentation with respect to the valuation as well. So I really enjoyed it.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, one thing that I wanted to know, if you guys have come across it, was this cost per registration and how much do they generate sales as a percentage of intangible asset? Anything that you know about this?
I didn't get you, sir.
Yeah, so we took the net fixed asset turnover as a proxy to see how effectively assets are being utilized. But I do remember reading this, I think, on Value Picker as well. I think as I mentioned, they are into relatively higher value registration in general, which would have some scope for revenue generation in the future. Apart from this, yes, this is something which I believe we can cover in the document after. Yeah.
Right. So for this registration, they also take debt, right?
No, sir.
Or they're doing it with internal accruals mostly.
Yes, so internal accrual. As we had mentioned, they have a generating part, so they have good enough reserves to support this capex. So.
Right. My next question was this bioinsecticide, which you said. I came across that bioinsecticide is just 1% of the total insecticide consumption. Could you maybe check it because you guys have studied it so well? This trend, I mean, there has been a lot of discussion around it, but in ground level there hasn't been many um, real use cases. So that number, if you could kind of capture somewhere, it would be very nice, right?
Sure, sir. I think I remember Mr. Harsh's video as well. He mentioned कि bios this is something which they mentioned, but again groundwork, credible work कुछ नहीं होता. This I
Hmm,
believe
hmm,
just as yeah
Yes,
to signal the market
मतलब
that
उनके annual report.
mm-hmm.
right. Yasta, you were saying something?
हाँ कि उनके annual report में it was mentioned कि 8% of the whole market share is only with the bioinsecticide.
Okay, 8%. That's large, I think.
No, मतलब उनकी कंपनी का नहीं, overall industry का बताया था उन्होंने.
Haha. Okay,
Yes, sir.
and is it growing, or is it like
That I haven't checked. Sorry.
maybe as a part of the next step, just it would be
Okay, sir.
nice to have a small snippet on bioinsecticide. I mean, we should at least
Okay,
keep an
okay.
eye for it, right? The
Yeah, sure.
third thing was yeah. So you said that for I mean they were doing forward contracts, and when the euro is falling, it's a bad sign. Why did you say that? Because if I do a forward contract at today's price, I say for example at the price at which I want it, and the euro fell, my customers are obliged to kind of sell me at today's price. No, so that way I'm kind of hedging my risk.
Yes, sir.
Correct, sir. So that
Hmm.
was expected of Sharda to do when the euro was falling. In the recent quarters, the euro is appreciating. So that part
Ah,
of
okay,
discussion is for the earlier that they should have done this earlier to reduce the impact. But वो हुआ नहीं था. Their bottom line was
right.
affected. That was a very significant. I think now the very need is not there. But yes, you're correct, sir. तब करना चाहिए था.
उल्टा
They were yeah,
सो
correct.
उल्टा कर रहा था, मतलब जब उनको फॉरवर्ड करना था तब नहीं किया, जब करना चाहिए मतलब जब राइज कर रहा है तब वो फॉरवर्ड कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर रहा है, राइट?
हाँ, so
समथिंग
again
लाइक
we can
दैट.
use that hindsight to do some judgment, but हाँ जो need of the hour थी उस पे उन्होंने deliver नहीं करा जो उनसे expected था. Yes, yeah.
Got it. Okay, understood. Overall, I think I mean you guys have done a great job considering that only two of you worked and Mayank, you and Asta just joined this team. So I think Mayank, another very good thing that you did was also kind of train up Asta and bring her to speed. So great job on
Mm.
that. Me- That's all my question. Nirvan, maybe your
Yeah, fantastic presentation, guys. Fantastic, especially considering both of you work for the bulk of it. Amazing work. A lot of
Thank you,
details
sir.
have gone in, lot of efforts. Thank you so much for that. Asta, you said 52% returns in 3 years. That is the total return, right? Yearly return नहीं है वो, right?
52% सर वो upside था. हाँ
हाँ
कह
मतलब
सकते हैं.
3 साल में 50%
हाँ
बनेगा,
हाँ हाँ.
right? So if I take a CAGR, around 15% CAGR.
Okay, yes sir.
Okay, ठीक है. नहीं, that was a clarification. Okay,
Okay.
one basic question I have is, ये जो generics बेचते हैं market में, are they selling branded generics or are they selling generic generics?
Yeah,
Um,
I'll take this. So to best of our knowledge, the very Sharda का brand name in general नहीं है. They do not have that kind of power that you would be attracted to that. So I think generic ही है. There, I believe after had elaborated कि their registration under some other name or which you are mentioning. Uh, so I think अभी तो it is generic. Yeah, I also do not have any clarity. After, do you have anything to add?
no, as of now, no.
Okay, so
I think
one metric that will, sorry, Mike, one metric that will give you this answer is go to their P&L and check what percentage of revenues is goes into. If they call out marketing spend separately, sometimes they'll call out marketing and distribution together. That will make it difficult because distribution पे ये लोग spend कर रहे होंगे. But if they call out marketing spend separately, you can check की percentage क्या है as a percentage of revenue.
Sure. So I think we have covered this in the document as well. So I think I'd
Okay.
mentioned ki what are the headers I took under marketing expense or distribution. So it
Okay.
wasn't as significant as we thought it would be, but yeah, I don't think
Mhm.
so. I think if reading into that, it would be generic. Nothing.
Okay. Got it. And one other basic question is, so this registration, right? They've built a whole company around the process of registering, their generic, dawai for lucrative molecules where the demand size is large, etc. And you guys mentioned that they exited the LATAM geography also because the regulations were becoming easy. So they were losing their edge, they were losing their moat. So can you explain like what exactly is this registration process? What are the steps? और शारदा ने इसमें मोट कैसे बना लिया है या व्हाट इज देयर एक्सपर्टीज इन दिस?
Sure. So again, correcting on the latent aspect. So they haven't exited. उनका very minute market है वो, and that is not with their target market. So yeah, it would contribute, but not significantly. So this again is a very IP sort of thing that they aren't very vocal about this aspect. उनके, if we check the balance in the annual report, they have a very small section on it. We are reading that you wouldn't have a very good idea कि what exactly every step goes into. But value picker की summary में limited things if I recall for euro, basically that mention the complexities which come into the picture. So for example, in euro they have to register first, I think euro specific, then country specific. A lot of things are behind the picture, but they aren't very vocal, and they shouldn't be. I think in very competitive या mode है. But yeah, I'll share that annual report.
Yeah, so
snippet as
basically, you
well.
know, my question is, Mayank, ki, is it only a matter of money? Like I remember that on Value Picker, I had read, I think one time कि एक molecule register करने के लिए कभी-कभी 2-3 साल
Mhm.
लगते हैं, and 5 to 6 crores is spent on registering a large molecule. So what I'm trying to get at is it only a, you know, is the barrier to entry only capital, or is there a
Uh,
process barrier to entry which they have you know, which they have sort of learned over the years?
सर मतलब इनके
so
पास क्या है मयंक? हेलो.
हाँ हाँ बोलो,
हाँ,
आस्था, मैं
हाँ,
म्यूट हो
हाँ.
गया.
हाँ तो सर मतलब इन्होंने इनका एस्टैब्लिशमेंट भी काफी पुराना है, तो आई थिंक कि इनके पास डोजियर्स काफी ज्यादा है हर एक मॉलिक्यूल का, जो शायद इनके कॉम्पिटिटर के
अगेन
पास.
मेरे को डोजियर क्या है वो समझाओ यार, मुझे पता नहीं है.
सर मतलब लाइक अगर कोई मॉलिक्यूल अगर ये आइडेंटिफाई कर लेते हैं, तो उनको अगर एक्वायर करना है तो उनके पूरे प्रोसेस लिखते होंगे कि ये मॉलिक्यूल में कितने केमिकल्स हैं, कितना प्रोपोर्शन है हर एक का,
हम्म.
और विल दैट बी बेनिफिशियल फॉर द क्रॉप और नॉट. तो वो सारा डेटाबेस उनके पास है हर एक मॉलिक्यूल का, तो फिर आई थिंक कि उनके कॉम्पिटिटर्स के पास इतना ज्यादा नहीं होगा, क्योंकि वो एक निश मॉलिक्यूल में वर्क कर रहे हैं.
ओके, तो ये जो डेटाबेस है, दिस डेटाबेस इज हाउ डू दे कलेक्ट इट? मतलब ऐसा क्या कर रहे हैं जो कोई और कंपनी रेप्लिकेट नहीं कर सकती, राइट?
yeah, I'll take it. Yeah, ठीक. So
ओके.
uh, so first की आपकी की very position of Sharda. So मेरा read of this whole situation is कि अभी जो इसका addressable market या जो niche पे Sharda है, वो इतनी lucrative नहीं है for a bigger company to change their business model to focus on this. वो manufacturing में है, they are proficient in that aspect. So larger companies aren't focusing on this. Smaller companies के लिए तो barriers to entry है, capital intensive है, अपने आप को asset light बोलते हैं, but that is a very major requirement. I think उस वजह से their establishment is doing well कि not majority of the players are eyeing into this, और वही it is a small company, it has leeway to grow, बहुत space है. So I hope I have answered that aspect. So और भी I think another part of the question I forgot.
No, so basically what you're saying is they are playing in a sort of a niche where larger companies, say sitting in China or even in India, will not be interested in that space. So they are sort of playing in a middle ground with a mix of capital,
Yeah.
and they've learned some processes over the years. But it
Correct.
is not going, they don't have a very a long growth runway. Is that what you're saying? कि मतलब जब तक छोटे हैं तब तक ठीक है, जब बहुत बड़ा होना चाहेंगे तो ऑटोमेटिकली दे विल फेस इश्यूज. इज दैट व्हाट यू आर सेइंग?
Correct. So that is something, but again, putting a number, putting a line would be difficult क्योंकि they are mentioning कि the very geographies they are present है, उनके पास बहुत space है grow करने को, तो this is not something near future का concern. So yeah, but
Okay.
this is something I believe इतना time take, इतना consuming process है ये. The companies don't want to actually engage into this aspect. We have mentioned कि भाई इतना value addition है नहीं, according to value chain 10% part या उसके लिए I don't think it makes sense for the larger companies to take so much pain. Yeah.
See, I would disagree. I mean, 18 to 20% ROE है, bad जितना भी हो. 18 to 20% ROE is not bad, but you are right. Maybe the size of the market is not that big, so they're still at 4,000 crores.
Hmm.
So
So
okay,
ROE and ROC again we'll mention कि I don't think number को face value पे लेना सही होगा. इतने सारे ifs and buts हैं उनकी balance sheet में कि very asset हो गई उनका. तो
got it.
थोड़ा pinch of salt के साथ ही numbers को interpret करना चाहिए.
Got it, got it. And that is also the sense that you both got when reading Value Picker, that a lot of people are doubting their numbers.
Correct. So the percent of write-off was from there, and the amortization
Mhm.
rate was taken from the forensics framework. Yeah.
Okay, okay, got it.
Mm.
Last question from my end. You said that EU gross margins are the best for Sharda. So, to my mind, like NAFTA margins or at least US margins also should be equally good, right? So, do you guys
Mhm.
have any insights on why NAFTA margins are not as high as EU?
So I believe I mentioned that those are also in line with EU. So the figure which I have are कि EU had 35.7 and NAFTA is
Okay,
29, which is close to 30. So I think they are in line. They are both very lucrative margins or demographics to grow.
okay. How much is EU and how much is NAFTA? Can you repeat?
So 35.7% for EU. I'll actually
Okay,
I'll share the latest con call figures as well.
Um,
Yeah.
okay.
okay. Yeah, that
Yeah.
you can
I
do it
have
after.
the numbers, can I?
Yeah, yeah.
Sure.
So for EU, it's 35.5%. For NAFTA, it's 28%. Latin America, it's 24%. And rest of the world, it's 27%.
Okay, great. And these numbers are for FY22 or for one
No,
quarter?
no. Quarter 3,
For
2023.
quarter 3. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay. Got it. That gives a great idea. Okay. So NAFTA is still quite lower than EU
Yes,
for
sir.
some reason. Okay. Yeah, it'll be
पर
interesting.
एक्चुअली उनका यूरोप में थोड़ा रजिस्ट्रेशन ज्यादा होता है, नाफ्टा में उनका
Mm-hmm.
वो कम है, तो फिर
Okay.
जब कम है तो वॉल्यूम ग्रोथ भी वहां से थोड़ा कम ही आता होगा.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, that's all from my end. I think great presentation. Thank you again.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Anybody else wants to ask any questions? Cool. We'll catch up tomorrow, I guess, right? With Shantanu, your team's presentation.